Okay, so each one has a division from, like if you're looking in the spring and the winter and spring, you see on the top part, the half closest to the winter solstice will have the 4 broken lines, then the 4 solid. If you're looking at summer and winter, from the beginning there'll be the 4 bright, closest to the greatest weight, and they'll have the 4 broken, 4 solid, and then the 4 broken, 4 solid, then the broken, because you have that half is closer to the light. So really, if you look at the summer solstice, the 4 broken lines on one side, 4 solid lines on one side, and the 4 solid lines are on the other side. It's like a mirror image. When they move from solstice to solstice, that's how you're measuring the light. So it's in the first one of daylight increasing or nighttime increasing that allows a big differentiation. But they really have been devised really mathematically. It's precise. Each season divides in half. Each half of the season divides in half. Each half of a season divides in half. So each half of a season divides in half until you get to a week or 6-day periods. And these are all sections of the zodiac. It's not. We have pentans, which are 5-degree divisions. These are 6-degree divisions that go around the zodiac. So, okay, this is basically each family member has a relationship to itself and each other family member. And then there's 2 nature symbols running into each other and 2 categories or types of energy or types of meaning running into each other. Like the thunder running into the earth, to the sun, to the mother. Hey, mom, look at me, boom. The thunder to the mountain, thunder in the mountain, the thunder to the thunder to dangerous water. Like you have the 8 aspects of thunder of the first sun. You have the 8 aspects of clarity, pros and cons, and you have second daughter to the mother to the third son. It just keeps going. They keep going around like this, and you have all the possible relationships. 8 phases. With each division, so I have 64 hexagrams or 64 subdivisions of the zodiac or of the seasons, which are explained, which the family explains. So if you have certain family members, you can see those areas are really activated in your life. The family members you didn't have, you can't know about. And those are areas that have a more gap in your experiences and in your horoscope. I follow the system. Each line is one of the members in your family tree. The father, the grandfather, and the mother's father's mother, father, and you keep breaking it down. I have my whole family tree put out in each hexagrams and put into the zodiac. It's quite incredible. Okay. So this is more or less what it would look like if you put them together. Like here, I have them broken so you can see each one as distinct. You can see each triangle relate to other. When they're often drawn in a circle, they don't have the spaces. They run right into each other. And you have the different phases going through. Each hexagram goes around. There's the 8 trigrams and there's the 8 hexagrams in each. Now, there's a specific problem that comes up to this that we'll get into later a bit more, is that there's 384 lines in each hang and 360 degrees in the zodiac. So there's a puzzle that has to be solved here. And it gets solved in the middle of the fixed signs. So you'll notice that there's 6 hexagrams in the fixed signs and 5 in the cardinal and mutable. So in one way, really, the whole phase is from the cardinal right through to the middle of the fixed. And it's almost like the middle of in the fixed signs, the cardinal and mutable. I don't know if I've seen this properly. I just check. The cardinal and mutable, like they overlap and hold on like this. There's an overlapping influence that allows it to tighten up around these 15-degree points. Okay, so now when I put that, just had the symbols on it. Here's the signs. You have the signs. You have the colors of the signs of the zodiac, the names of the seasons of the year, the equinoxes, and it's all in order. There's the whole thing. Funny thing about this, you found a piece of paper with this on it. You saw this, and you pick it up, this piece of paper off the street, and you see it. You're like, oh, it's just a design or something. You crumple up, throw it away. You wouldn't think you're throwing away the mysteries of the universe. You wouldn't realize, no one would even imagine that so much phenomenal comprehension is within this little drawing or within a horoscope. Then once you have this understanding, it begins to apply and stretch your understanding of the zodiac and how it applies to the planets and the energies and how to guide a person's life. At the same time, someone living in this begins to reach out into the signs, into the trigrams, into the hexagrams, and begin to find guidance to the things that they're doing and the way that they're living. Okay, how are we doing for time? Oh, we got lots of time. Okay, so I got time to ramble on. So this came back to where we had, in this one we have the 8 trigrams. So you can say the eightfold path of the Buddha. We have the signs of the zodiac, or seasons of the year. We have the hexagrams put around inside that. We have the colors, color spectrum. There's actually this all of these things can be interpreted in notes in the musical scales too. So these are all musical scales. So this is all color and sound. Could heal almost anybody. The right mixtures of color, right mixtures of sound. This is your being. You can fix them. You can fix what's missing. You can add things. You can complete a person by being aware of color or sound. And then on the outside, we have the constellations, which many of the teachers put the labors of Hercules and the spiritual teachings would put up into the heavens so that they would survive politics of changing countries or whatever. They would last more eternally if the stories were in the heavens and passed on as those teachings. So the labors of Hercules is the labors of the soul as it goes through Aries or Taurus and the challenges the soul has to deal, type of experience it gets. So they put that teaching in the zodiac. It doesn't mean that if you have your sun in that constellation, the zodiac, that one, you're that initiator, you're that at that level. It just means that that lesson that's to be learned there is more important to you, that you're going to have to learn that. You still have to learn the others in sequence as to how it's been written, but you would still have certain messages coming within it. Yeah, so these are the neutral scales. So like the signs and the houses, they're just scales. They just measure the hours of the day, the signs, seasons of the year, you have the phases of them. These are all just measurement factors. They're a wholesome mandala. It doesn't become unique or special until you choose one point or accentuate something, and then everything spins around that one place because you're off center to a certain degree. So the astrology of the I Ching, which got turned into divination and throwing coins and asking, so it's dividing sticks, throwing coins, asking a question, getting an answer, and pulling something out and reading into it, was really the original form of horary astrology. Ask a question, throw a chart for the moment, and read into it. Just find the answers for the moment. So again, there's not much material about this, but this idea of the horary asking questions, you're tuning into a philosophy. And if you go in with questions, it's what happens is the questions are aligned. You can organize your questions. There's so many types of moon questions. There's so many types of Mercury questions, of Venus questions. If you look at any horary astrology book, they'll take a question, they'll put it to a planet. Oh, that's a Venus question, you want something. Oh, that's a Mercury question, you're thinking something. Oh, that's a Saturn question, you're planning something. You know, like you have different planets have questions associated to those things. So they have hundreds of questions for each planet. And then when you ask those questions, you use that planet to go into the chart to look at, to see what it's saying, what the balances or imbalances are, what the scales of justice are saying. However, that's the way it's been passed on in tradition over thousands of years. A lot of thought's gone into this, some good, some bad, but originally it was the zodiac. The planets themselves were your questions. So where your planets are in your chart, each planet's a level of consciousness. It's its own question. And that level of consciousness is going to be in a certain place in the zodiac. You're going to be attracted to that theme, that sign, that distortion, those stars, that bias. And as soon as you pick up that attitude, oh, you're spinning in the world and you're trying to make that attitude happen with that level of consciousness. And then the astrology, the I Ching, tuning into these things can begin to unfold and put into perspective the different layers of consciousness that we have. But the planets become your questions, your genetic, your DNA, your lifetime questions for this lifetime. The planets in your nature, you've got these questions, you've got these nerve points, you've got these energy points that are going to last for your whole life. You've got them for your whole life. You don't change your chart midstream. Oh, you can ask these questions 100 times or see it different ways. You're still growing into each planet as distinct, and that planet is distinct in that sign, distinct in that house, distinct in the other aspects. But slowly, as we learn to develop our sense of soul or oneness, we learn to detach or get more wise about being attached to the zodiac. We see how we've been balanced one way or another. We begin to come to a deeper understanding within it. And as you get to that deeper understanding, it can take away the big storms of attachment and hurt, of being attracted to something and getting hurt, of being very happy, very sad, doing something really strong, then being really receiving violence or anger. Just there's so many storms in life that we attract because we're off balance. We don't see it. It's a rare person in one lifetime that will get to the point of balance. Sometimes it takes thousands of lifetimes to go through all the experiences till you finally in your soul come to a point of being balanced in this. So this is where it jumps from just being from your chart up to a cosmology, a deeper way of thinking, a philosophy, a teaching, a way of thinking that the greatest minds that have ever been on planet, going through our whole history, have written about, put their teachings to. And there's a lot of people who are fairly high profile, fairly deep understanding, but they don't think astrology can do this. You have to go right to God. You can't believe in this. This is bad stuff. It's not. It's just people aren't aware of that, what it can do. And that who made the heavens anyways, who created the Pleiades, who created the stars, who created the seasons. There's a bigger story going on here. So your chart is it's like they have movies where you can make up your own story, or where the storyline can change this way or that way. You can choose which way it goes, the never-ending stories. Well, that's your chart. It's a never-ending story. You get your curiosity pulls. I got to know about this story. I got to know about that. Well, I've had enough of that story. I want to get this story. Well, you haven't finished with this story, and we get pulled around. And at moments in our life, getting a point of focus, or getting some clear ideas, or getting a perspective, or getting some timeline to look at this can be most helpful.